Welcome to Wednesday, July 19th, year of our Lord, 2023. Time for the Wells Report front page. In national news today, the Biden family whistleblowers will testify early this afternoon, Eastern time. It'll be high noon here in the Central Time Zone. Two whistleblowers who allege Justice Department politically interfered with an investigation into President Biden's youngest son, Hunter, will testify before Congress at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Testifying will be, quote, Whistleblower X, a 13-year special agent of the IRS, whose identity will be revealed for the first time during the hearing. That hearing, by the way, is on the heels of a former FBI agent testifying, who is also yet to be unnamed, who verified the testimony of Gary Shapley. Getting back to the story, according to the opening statement released ahead of the hearing, the unidentified official, not Greg Shapley. According to the statement released before the hearing, this unidentified official says this, quote, I have witnessed the corrosion of ethical standards and the abuse of power that threatens our nation. It is within this context that I have chosen to shed light on these actions and expose only those responsible. I recognize that while I was present at the start of this investigation and was closely involved with the investigation for roughly 5 years, I am just part of the story. My aim is to address systemic problems that have allowed misconduct to flourish. It is not a call for blame, but yet for accountability and reform. The DOJ has notified President Trump he is an investigation. He is the target of an investigation. This from The Hill. Former President Trump said yesterday morning that he's been alerted to that he is the target of a Justice Department January 6th investigation, focusing on his efforts to stay in power after losing the 2020 election. There's bias in that statement from The Hill. Trump said he received the target letter Sunday evening. It had been clear that President Trump's actions would be the central focus of the Department of Justice investigation, as Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel to review the matter last year to determine, quote, whether any person or entity unlawfully interfered with the transfer of power, unquote. But as Trump states, receiving a target letter is often a sign someone could soon face charges in a matter where prosecutors have gathered substantial evidence. Trump is reported to have pursued a multi-pronged plan to remain in office, turning to the DOJ, state officials, and even his own supporters who entered the Capitol. It's unclear what specified charges Trump would face if prosecutors decide to move ahead. Elsewhere in the Trump situation, Judge Eileen Cannon is hearing trial delay arguments yesterday. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon heard arguments yesterday from Donald Trump's defense lawyers and prosecutors about his landmark trial on charges he kept classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate, but did not set a trial date. Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith proposed a December start to the trial to allow Trump's lawyers time to get security clearances and review evidence in the case. But Judge Cannon told prosecutors that would be too soon. Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, argued that he could not get a fair trial while campaigning for president and urged a postponement until after the November 2024 election. Judge Cannon said the case was complex and that she would issue a written decision promptly. In Michigan, felony charges have been leveled against a slate of Trump electors. Michigan's Attorney General has filed felony charges against 16 Republicans, including the head of the party's state chapter, with acting as false electors for then-President Donald Trump in the 2020 election. Democrat Attorney General Dana Nessel said Tuesday that's yesterday, that all 16 people would face 8 criminal charges, including forgery and conspiracy to commit election forgery, which range from a possible 5 to 14 years in prison on each count. The group includes the head of the Republican National Committee's chapter in Michigan, Kathy Burden, as well as the former co-chair of the Michigan Republican Party, Mayshawn Maddock, and Shelby Township Clerk, Stan Grote. The false electors' actions undermine the public faith in the integrity of our elections, and we believe also plainly violated the laws by which we administer our elections in Michigan. That's a quote from Nessel. We'll be talking more about that during the rest of the Wells Report. There is a statement. We went out and looked for some of the Michigan election law. I have an excerpt of it, and I will share that with you later on in today's broadcast. Elsewhere in state news, CBS is reporting that Illinois has become the first to end cash bail. Illinois is the first to halt the use of cash bail after the state Supreme Court yesterday upheld a law that was passed by the state legislature in 2021. It will take effect in 60 days. That would be September 18th. The 5-2 ruling from the state's highest court overturned a lower court's earlier ruling that said the law was unconstitutional. The elimination of cash bail was a provision of the SAFE-T Act, a major criminal justice reform bill signed into law by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker in early 2021. Prosecutors and sheriffs in 64 counties filed lawsuits claiming the provision was unconstitutional. Texas has ordered, the Texas DPS was ordered to refuse crossing of illegals or give water. An email from a DPS trooper medic shared with CNN by the Texas Department of Public Safety details concerns to a supervisor over what he calls inhumane treatment of migrants along the border in Eagle Pass, Texas. In the email, the troopers said medics were given orders to push people back into the water to go back to Mexico, and were also ordered not to give water to the migrants. The Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department are in ongoing talks about what action can be taken against Texas amid concerns over Texas Governor Greg Abbott's months-long operation along the U.S. southern border, this according to a source familiar with the discussions. Anthony Fauci back in the news. This from the New York Post. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky expressed outrage over new revelations that a recently retired ex-NIA ID director, Dr. Anthony Fauci, is privy to a taxpayer-reimbursed security detail. Documents obtained by Jesse Waters Primetime on Fox News from the U.S. Marshal's office through a request described how marshals took over that responsibility from the Department of Health and Human Services beginning in 2023. Waters said a source's tip led to a FOIA request to the U.S. Marshals that revealed the security detail was for Fauci. Waters reported the documents also stated Fauci's perks includes limousine transportation. Senator Paul sent a letter to HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra in June requesting additional details about Fauci's current employment status and special taxpayer-funded benefits. Elsewhere from the London Daily Mail, the transgender assistant health secretary who wants to make normalizing gender-affirming care for kids a governmental priority admitted that she is happy she waited until after having her own children before starting her personal treatment. Dr. Rachel Levine, she's also an admiral, the first openly gender trans government official, is among President Biden's officials pushing to make it easier for children under the age of 18 to change genders. She began her transition in 2011 when she was 54 years old. She'd already been married for 23 years and raised 2 children, both of whom are now young adults. She says she's glad she waited so long because it allowed her to have a family. We'll have that statement courtesy of Twitter a little bit later on in this broadcast. On the heels of that, House Republicans voted yesterday to eliminate funding to 3 LGBTQ community centers during a contentious House Appropriations Subcommittee meeting that one member characterized as political theater. Tensions boiled over yesterday after Representative Tim Cole, a Republican from Oklahoma, introduced an amendment to the annual funding bill covering the Departments of Transportation and Housing and Urban Development to eliminate $3.62 million in funding for 3 LGBTQ community centers in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. The amendment, which Cole said yesterday would crack down on problematic spending, also prohibits federal funds from being used to fly LGBTQ pride flags outside government buildings. That particular resolution passed in a 32-26 vote along party lines. 9 Democrat lawmakers found themselves in a situation where they voted against a pro-Israeli resolution in the U.S. House of Representatives. 9 House Democrats voted against that resolution, so says USA Today, that declares Israel is not a racist and apartheid state and condemned anti-Semitism. The resolution, which passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, drew criticism for conflating anti-Semitism with disapproval of the Israeli government. The resolution also forced some progressive Democrats into a vote where they would either be perceived as refusing to condemn anti-Semitism or contradicting past criticisms of what they refer to as Israel's human rights record. The resolution passed 412 to 9. One lawmaker voted present. Broad Democrat support for the resolution was never, ever in doubt, or Democratic support for the resolution was never in doubt. Republican leaders decided to bring the resolution to the House floor after several progressive Democrats announced they would boycott Israeli President Isaac Herzog's joint address to Congress, which is happening later tonight. The Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair, Representative Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat from Washington, said Saturday that Israel is a racist state. So liberal media hosts and commentators are panicking over a potential no labels third-party ticket in 2024 and have criticized the efforts as disingenuous and the stupidest thing ever. Those are quotes from mainstream media sources. No Labels is a centrist group who has taken steps towards potentially launching a third-party unity ticket. Recently announced, Senator Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, would serve as an honorary co-host of the group's Common Sense Town Hall upcoming in New Hampshire. Democrats and members of the media have criticized the efforts because of Donald Trump suggesting any candidate would be a spoiler for President Biden. CNN political commentator David Axelrod said No Labels' efforts were disingenuous. It is as certain as anything in politics that No Labels will be spoilers and highly likely in favor of Trump and the Republicans.